Saturday is a big game for Manchester United. Now, welcome back to Red Devils TV. I've got Nick below me and a very special guest today, Ricky, and I'm just very excited to get right into this preview. So anyway, obviously, as we know, we're against Wolves, which are actually a very tricky opponents, let's say, because for me, Wolves are one of them teams that you never really score a lot against them unless you're Brighton when you smash them 6-0. But United always seem to have a difficult run against Wolves, whether it's at Old Trafford or whether it's at Molineux. And for me, Wolves, since they've got their new manager, they've kind of changed the tactics, but the way they play is kind of similar because they've kind of had similar managers in recent times, all being Portuguese. So Wolves' current new tactics is they set up with a 4-4-2 formation, where that they will obviously drop back, not have a lot of possession, and wait for the team to lose the ball and them cutting out the lanes of the passes, and they'll go on the counter-attack. And that's how Wolves like to set up. And when they are in control of games, they go a lot more up front with a 4-2-4. And defensively, they will also drop back to a 5-3-2. So they are very hard to break down. And as we know, they have a lot of key players. But Rick, I'll ask you the question first. Do you think that Man United's poor form is going to... are we going to struggle on Saturday is the question. Because we're currently performing poorly. Do you think it's going to be a tough game?
Yes, I do. I'll be surprised if it's not a tough game. I expect us to struggle. Throughout the season, really, we've struggled to score goals. It's been the very occasional one where we've won comfortably. We beat Bournemouth 3-0 at Old Trafford. We beat Forest 3-0 at Old Trafford. Obviously, I'm only talking league games. I think they're our biggest two victories. I don't know if you lads can correct me on that, whether there's any others. I think we won 2-0 away at least. But even a 2-0 win is a big win for us. It's often by a goal when we do win. We've been winning enough games, really, to, obviously we've been winning enough games to be in the top four because we're in the top four. But, that goes without saying. But so many of them have been by the odd goal that we're lucky that we haven't dropped a few more points along the way. Obviously, by conceding an equaliser or whatever, in some of them one goal wins. I can't see, just because it happens so infrequently, I can't see us winning comfortably. If you were to offer me a 1-0 win now, I'd take it without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, it is going to be a very tough game, like you've said. And with United's poor form at the moment, people blame David De Gea for the loss against West Ham. But realistically, in my opinion, I honestly feel like with David De Gea, I still think he should stay at Manchester United, but that's just my opinion. I do feel like there's more areas on the pitch that United should invest in. But again, this is just my opinion. I'm in the minority of that because a lot of the fan base seem to want David De Gea to leave. But for me, I feel like we're not scoring enough and we're not creating our chances enough. And that's why Manchester United are losing games. But David De Gea, because he lets the goal in, he gets all the criticism and all the blame. So for me, I feel like with Wolves, it's going to be a low-scoring game, but it just really depends on how Manchester United set up because obviously we're at Old Trafford. We know how good Manchester United's home record has been this season. It's just been our on-the-road form, which has let us down this season. And Nick, I'll ask you a question now. So do you think United will have the advantage at Old Trafford despite us having poor form at the moment? Or do you think that it'll be like having a 12th man on the pitch and we'll absolutely batter Wolves?
I do think it's going to be a tough game to fight for top four, but obviously, as they call it, the fortress, playing at home, I think we should have the advantage playing at home. We're comfortable at home, unbeaten. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I've said, it really depends on.
That's why hopefully
you've read my mind.
Varane should be back as well, shouldn't he? As well, or.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, obviously, we're going to talk about that, obviously, after Erik Ten Hag's press conference tomorrow afternoon. But hopefully Varane is back because there were reports about a week ago saying that Varane is expected to be back. But we've seen Ten Hag recently that he likes to postpone his players coming back after injuries. I mean, he's done that really well with Martial because, as we know, Martial's built like a poppadom. He breaks at any given opportunity. And I really rate Martial. I think he's probably one of our best attackers. Like the sport, It's just unfortunate with his poor injury record. That's why he's again, another player that seems to get a lot of blame. I mean, I saw people blaming Martial because he didn't score that goal when he was literally surrounded by 2 defenders and Fabianski was sweeping him, and he couldn't. No one could score that goal. Not even Erling Haaland could score that goal. He was under a lot of pressure, but because obviously United are a goal down, we want to get their goal. But Martial got a lot of criticism for that. But again, with Martial's injury, I like to highlight what Erik Ten Hag has done, because I think that even including the Ronaldo situation this season, Ten Hag has dealt with a lot of situations very, very well. And he's, with injuries especially, he's let his players gradually come back. Now, I'll expect to see Varane on the bench on Saturday, but I don't think he'll start. I do think that Erik Ten Hag will start with Lindelof and Shaw, as their partnership is quite strong at the moment. But even though I think Varane is a much better player than Varane and Shaw, than Lindelof and Shaw, I do feel like that keeping Lindelof and Shaw at the moment is the correct decision to go down. Maybe bring Varane back for Bournemouth, because Varane's a very experienced centre-half. So, Ricky, I'll ask you the next question now. So, with Wolves, what do you think about Ruben Neves? Because for me, I think he's going to be their key player in this game, and I feel like his set piece delivery is very, very good. We know how good he is on free kicks, his set piece delivery on corners. Do you think he can cause us trouble, or do you think Casemiro will be all over him and be able to stop him from making these killer passes?
He's bound to have the odd moment. He's a quality player. He's bound, obviously, certainly if it's set pieces, if they get enough of the ball and get enough corners, maybe a couple of dangerous free kicks, there's nothing you can do to prevent him getting on the ball when it's a set piece. Nothing whatsoever. And then obviously in open play, he's a quality player. Casemiro's not going to be able to stop him every single time. So if Neves shows what he can do and gets it right, he only needs to get it right once or twice and they might get a goal out of it. Obviously, if they do score a goal, we've got to score 2. And as I've just said previously, scoring 2 goals isn't easy for us. So it's important that we do nail him down. But it's not going to be an easy job. He's a good player.
Yeah, I agree. And like I've said, that this game for me is probably one of the most important games of the season, because United, like every game from now until the end of the season, is going to be like a cup final. And we are in a cup final against Manchester City at Wembley for the FA Cup final. But I'm talking about the Premier League at the same time as well, because Liverpool are on our tails. They're literally 1 point behind us, despite United having a game advantage. We need to have that game in hand that we've got on Liverpool. We need to be using that as a pushboard and to have a head start on Liverpool, because if we draw this game or lose this game, you could probably say goodbye to top 4, because United have been comfortable in the top 4, I'd say, several times this season. And we've allowed teams to get back. I mean, Spurs crept up at one point. Newcastle are constantly third because of their goal difference. Now Liverpool have crept up. There's a lot of pressure. And even though Erik Ten Hag has done amazing this season by completely resurrecting Manchester United and changing how we play, I still think the players are still adapting to the way Erik Ten Hag does play football. But again, it's not going to happen over one season, and especially with certain players adapting to how Erik Ten Hag wants to play. But with Wolves, and I mean, Ricky, you said it best with Ruben Neves, that he's a quality player. And that if he gets on a set piece, we don't know what he's going to be like, because he's very unpredictable. And this is where I want to fall into on the predicted 11 now for Manchester United. So, Nick, I'll ask you first. With a back 5 of because I feel like it'd be David De Gea, I would go for Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Shaw, and Dot in this type of game, because for me, I feel like that Malacia, even though he's having a brilliant debut season for Manchester United, he was brought in as the backup left back. But for me, I feel like with Malacia, he times his challenges very late and always causes us to concede free kicks, and he doesn't commit a lot of fouls, and it seems to always get booked. So I feel like with a team like Wolves that are going to be physical and might rival up Malacia a little bit, I feel like this is the correct game to drop Malacia. I just wanted to know what your opinions are on that.
Yeah, I'd agree. Obviously, Dalot's very good, but obviously Malacia is quicker. But obviously, he gets yellow cards easy as well, doesn't he? Obviously, Dalot's more of a tactical player, I feel.
Yeah, he is, and I feel like Dalot, like you said, he's very tactical, and he kind of times his challenges a lot sooner, and a lot earlier and precise almost. So, Ricky, with that back five as well, do you think that avoiding like making fouls and challenges is the correct way in this play? Because we know how dangerous Ruben Neves is on set pieces. So, do you think kind of bring it like starting 11 with that team that's not known to making many fouls, or do you think that we should still go for our best players?
That's an interesting question. That you've got to go with what you think is your best team and not really think about who might commit a foul. If it's somebody who deserves to be in the team, he deserves to be in the team. You were talking about Varane coming back. I don't think he'll come back into this game. I think it'll be Wan-Bissaka at right back. I think it'll be Dalot at left back. But moving forward, I think we're missing Luke Shaw's attacking ability. I think he's playing absolutely fantastic at centre back. So fantastic that I wouldn't even agree with what you said before when you said Varane's a better player. That's how highly I rate Shaw's performances at the minute. I think he's absolutely superb. But we do miss him. His attacking verve down the left-hand side. So I can see, I'm not saying this weekend, I think we'll see the team develop over the next couple of games, ready for the cup final, into Dalot at right back, Shaw at left back, and Varane and Lindelof as the two centre backs. That's what I think I can see developing. Coming back to this game, the Wolves game, Dalot's better on the ball than both Wan-Bissaka and Malacia. But I think I agree with you. I think it'll be Wan-Bissaka and Dalot this weekend. But it wouldn't surprise me one bit if it was Dalot and Malacia. Like I say, Dalot's better on the ball. We do need to win the game, but there is an argument that you need to be strong at the back and not concede a goal, and it gives you the great chance of winning the game then because you only need to score one. On the subject of free kicks around the edge of the box, one of the obvious players who's giving free kicks away a little bit too often to me is Casemiro, by the way, not just the defenders. So he needs to be on his game in that respect as well and not diving into challenges when not really necessary at times.
Yeah, I agree, Paul, and you've kind of hit the nail on the head with Casemiro because it seems that since he's come back from his suspension that he's not been the same player that we're used to. And for me, Casemiro, as we know, he's very good at man marking, he's very good at cutting out the passing lanes, and he's almost becoming he's not even staying back like he used to anymore, where he would drop between the defenders and allow the fullbacks to go forward. He seems to actually be getting forward more now, and we seem to be leaving a back two while the fullbacks are also going forward. So I feel like we're also not protected enough at the back at the same time. So I don't understand what's caused Casemiro's form to drop, but I feel like as well is that we're so used to him putting world-class performances in. We're like, this is still Casemiro performing average, but to us, because we've seen the dip in form, we're actually seeing that Casemiro is making a lot of messes. He's kind of with his passing, let's say, he's very inaccurate at the moment, and he doesn't actually seem to be as aggressive in his challenges either anymore. Like, obviously, I know you've obviously got the thought about, obviously he's got 2 red cards while being under Manchester United this season. He's never had a red card before in his career. So do you think that with the Premier League and the rules about challenging everything, do you think he's now like concerned about if he goes in for a challenge now, he might get another red card? Do you think that's playing in the back of his mind, Rick?
It shouldn't do. He's a top professional that's played at the highest level for however long he's been playing it, many years. He shouldn't let something like that affect his play. If you're on a yellow card during the game, you've really got to be careful about going in for challenges, and I think we've seen that once or twice. But he did get sent off. Did he get sent off for 2 yellows once? I think he did. But certainly when you're on a yellow, you've got to be very careful. But going into a game where you're not on a yellow to start with, a player of his standing, you've got to go into the game and play the game in your natural manner.
Yeah, I completely agree, Paul. I don't think that you should be Casemiro should be focusing on like he's been sent off in the past. I feel like he should just focus on his game and be like, you know what, if a player does get past me and let's say the defenders are all over the place, I do need to make that foul and get a yellow card, then I have to take one for the team, because that's what a lot of players have done in a Manchester United shirt recently. I mean, that's one of the reasons why he got sent off, because I think it was he accumulated too many yellow cards, and it was the Crystal Palace game where Bruno backed out of a challenge and no one was tracking Zaha, and Casemiro took him out to receive the yellow card, and then he missed the Arsenal tie. I think that's how it happened. But Nick, I'll ask you now. So with Wolves, their last 5 games, they've won 3 at home, but lost both their away games. So they won against Aston Villa 1-0 at home. They lost 6-0 to Brighton away from home. They beat Crystal Palace 2-0 at home. Lost 2-1 to Leicester away from home, and beat Brentford 2-0. So it seems that their home form is very strong, but on the road they do struggle a lot. So do you think that with Old Trafford being the fortress it is, do you think that, I mean, I've kind of already asked you this question, but do you think that United can actually play how Erik Ten Hag wants to play? So the high possession, Man United having a lot of shots on targets, because our goal scoring threat has been really low at the moment, and our XG for the last few games have been low. I don't think it's been over 1 in the last 3 games of our XG. So it's kind of embarrassing. I think it's since the Spurs game, United have not had a game with XG over 1 goal. So it seems that even our XG, it speaks for itself that United are not scoring enough goals. So we'll move on to the midfield with the predicted 11. How do you feel Manchester United can build up in the game and build up in possession and build up with the attack?
Just sort of play defensive. Obviously, we're at home, so obviously it's a fortress. Obviously, we want to keep, we obviously don't concede many goals, and obviously just push forward, just try Casemiro, when he was playing good before, the red cards and the bans and whatever. Obviously, he's getting balls over to Rashford. He's getting good balls. Obviously, if we can go back to playing like that, then obviously, and we can defend well and not make slip ups with the hair. Obviously, it should be a comfortable win. But obviously,
a lot of ifs and buts there, Nick.
Yep. So So with you say we have to kind of play a bit defensive. I agree with that, because obviously Wolves are their whole way of playing is setting up for the counter attack. So I can understand with you saying that United need to keep defensive minded. But for me, I feel like this is a perfect game for Eriksen and Bruno in this game. Now, I was thinking of playing Sabitzer or McTominay if he was fit. But for me, I feel like having Eriksen and Bruno, having that extra creative midfielder will be impactful for United. Now, for me, I like Eriksen. I like him a lot. But for me, I think he's a defensive liability. So I do think when he is on the pitch, yes, United seem to be playing a lot more forward balls, but then I'm always concerned about Eriksen actually getting stuck into and physical challenges, and Bruno's at fault for that. I don't think Bruno's a very physical player either. I mean, we see him, he flops around like a fish out of water as soon as he gets flicked at. People like to say Bruno's the true captain of Manchester United's side, and I agree. I do think that he's a very good leader, but I do think that at times as well, he's very petulant. And for me, Bruno is frustrating to deal with at the moment. And a lot of the fan base like him, and a lot of fan base don't like him. So, Rick, I'll ask you, because I'm not really too sure about your opinion on Bruno Fernandes. So, do you think he is captain material?
He's not my type of captain. No, he complains too much to his own teammates in not a very nice manner, in my opinion. He's not the type of captain that motivate me. If I was playing, I could see myself arguing back to him on many occasions, really. And I think it has happened. I think we've seen recent things with Casemiro arguing with him. I remember a game at Goodison Park, obviously a year or two back, because Matic was playing, where he complained at Matic, and Matic gave him a push in the chest. I don't know if you remember it. And I thought to myself, Matic is probably saying, or at least thinking, "Who are you telling me not to give the ball away?" Do you know what I mean? So I like players who captains who lead by example, but leading by example to me isn't somebody who's just trying to be flamboyant with the ball on so many occasions. You know, somebody who keeps it simple, that's the type of captain I like. Somebody who leads by example in the way that he plays and not giving the ball away and keeping the game simple. Look, if you think of Roy Keane, for example, I mean, you ain't going to get another Roy Keane, but Roy Keane was a great example of leading by example.
Yeah, I completely pal. I mean, United kind of do need that like supervisor type captain where like a lot of the players like respect him, but at the same time now you can't be like Roy Keane nowadays because obviously you'll get a red card every single match. But with Roy Keane, he's an absolute legend of this team. But I feel like as well with Roy Keane is that people kind of know him for being this angry, like full on, like strong-willed type person, and they actually forget what a quality player Roy Keane actually was. And for me, Roy Keane will go down as one of Man United's greatest players of all time, especially in the midfield department, because I have a very close connection to Roy Keane. I really admire him about like how strong willpowered he actually was. So do you think that we kind of have one of them type of like a captain material in your eyes? Do you think we actually have one of them type of players in our squad, or do you think United actually kind of lack that proper captain material as you described it as?
Have we? That's a great question. Obviously, Casemiro, what he's done in the game, he's going to command a lot of respect, but his game isn't quite up to scratch at the minute. But Casemiro, I said this on the United stand a couple of weeks ago and I was laughed at. I won't be against Victor Lindelof being the captain. I think he's playing absolutely superbly in there. I like centre backs as well. I mean, I don't mind central midfield players, but I like centre backs as captains because they can see everything in front of them, what's going on, and they can speak to players and advise players because they're seeing where the holes are opening up in front of them, where they want them to be closed. So I like centre backs as skippers. And when I said this, by the way, somebody checked it up for me. I didn't even really know for certain, but he is the skipper of Sweden apparently. So if he's the skipper of Sweden, I don't see why he can't be the skipper of Manchester United as well. I think it's going to be. Look, we've only got a few games left this season, but he's playing that well. You're asking me who look, it isn't going to happen. It isn't going to happen, but you're asking me my opinion, aren't you? And my opinion is that Victor Lindelof would make a cracking skipper.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. The thing is about Victor Lindelof as well is that I feel like if United were to keep Harry Maguire in the summer, I do feel like that Lindelof is a very ambitious centre back, and he knows that he could go to probably any team in Europe and probably get challenged for a first team spot, because I do really rate Victor Lindelof. I do think that he's a very, like I said, ambitious centre back, and he's a very solid centre back. But David Healy has just made a comment. Oh no! Don't lag out. There you go. I think I'm back. So David Healy's just read out this comment that with Bruno is far the best signing since Sir Alex Ferguson has left the club. Always available and always in goal involvements, whilst in the main man in a poor team. So Rick, I just want to ask you about: do you think Bruno is overly criticised, or do you think that he isn't the best player since Sir Alex Ferguson's retired that we've brought into the club?
I agree with the point that he's always available. He never ever seems to get injured, does he? He gets the odd suspension and misses one game, doesn't he, for accumulation of yellow cards. So he has got that going for him, he's fitness-wise. But to me, no, he's not. He's nothing like the best player we've had since. Nowhere near the best player we've had. We've had lots and lots of really good players that we've signed. Look, the fact that he is available all the time really does go for him. But we've had some really good players since Fergie left. His goal involvement ratio was fantastic to start with, but it isn't that great at the minute. It hasn't been for a couple of seasons. You know, he's supposed to be our creative spark, I think he's on 7 assists in the Premier League so far this season, and he got 6 assists in the Premier League last season. You know what I mean? So I don't really see that as being particularly exciting when you've got a creative midfield player with 6 or 7 assists in a league season. He's got time to add a couple more yet this season, but at the rate that he's getting assists, you know, you'd have to assume he's going to get 1 more at the most, really, in 3 or 4 games. So he might end up on 8 assists this season and 6 last season. You know, 7 a season, it's not good enough.
Yeah, I agree, Paul. Now you've just got a few comments here saying that. Do you think Martinez and Varane are captain material? They're 2 different comments, but do you think that them type of players, when they're available, do you think they bring something different to Manchester United and they're captain material as well?
Yeah, very, very close to it. Varane probably more so, cooler and calmer. I like Martinez. He's a top player, and his passing's great. You know, in many ways, he does do what I've just said, leads by example. His passing's great, he's determined, he gets stuck in, but sometimes he's a little bit too hot-headed for me. Now, you could level that at Keno, but when you're talking about a skipper, for me, Martinez, as a defender, he jumps in a little bit too often, and he goes in too hard when it's not really necessary at times, and I think... he's just not cool enough for me. I think I'd go more with Varane, or even, as I just said, even I would prefer, as a skipper, I think I would prefer Lindelof even.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas Williams in the comments has just put out as well that I never thought of Lindelof as captain, and United need to sell Maguire. There shouldn't be if buts or maybes. It's a must. So, Nick and Rick, I'll ask you both the same question now. Do you think Maguire needs to go for Manchester United?
I'd say so. Yeah, he needs to go for his own career, don't he? He's not as bad. I mean, there's a famous video out there that I made years ago, but it's been the reaction. Yeah, there's an overreaction to that, because at the time I was fuming. I've actually seen it again today because people keep sending it me. But I was absolutely fuming that we'd given £80 million for Harry Maguire, and at the time when I said it, we'd only loaned Smalling out for about £2 million, and then for that season. Then the following summer they signed him. I think we've got about 15 million for him in the end. So what I'm fuming about, and people took it at the time as a really derogatory remark, but I rate Chris Smalling. You know, not to be as good as Chris Smalling isn't such a bad thing. Whereas a lot of people didn't really think Smalling was that good. I think he's a great player. They love him in Rome. They absolutely love him. You know, and in Italy, they know a thing or two about defending. So it was no really bad thing. All that I was fuming about was buying a player who's not as good as a player that we've sold 80 million quid and 15 million quid. And I think I said in that interview, if I didn't know better, I thought you'd have thought Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was trying to sabotage the club. It was a horrendous piece of business, as was signing Wan-Bissaka for 5 million and selling Matteo Darmian for, I think we got £1 or £2 million for Matteo Darmian. You know, it's an absolute disgrace what was going on. Absolute disgrace. So getting back to Harry Maguire, he's not as bad as people are making out. I'm not saying he's a world beater, but he's not as bad as people are making out. And he'll get a move to a good club, I'm sure. But he needs to go. He needs to go, definitely, for his own career.
Yeah, I mean, Nick, with you as well, we did a video where we mentioned with Manchester United and players they should sell. So, what do you think with Harry Maguire? Obviously, I know you've mentioned that should be selling, but do you think, kind of like with Rick, we should?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with Rick. He's had his time. He's a good player.
Is it? I can only. It sounds terrible at the minute. Are you hearing the same as me, Nick, or is it okay?
Yeah, it's kind of.
I can hear like it's kind of static and all.
Yeah, it's kind of static. One sec, guys. Sorry about this.
Hello.
I'm not sure whose mic it is, to be honest, but we'll just oh, why is this happening now? Oh.
Sounds like a Dalek, and it's echoing as well.
Yeah. It's bad.
Right, I think this might be working now. I'm not too sure. Let's have a look. Right, it seems to be working fine. I'll mute these guys while I'm talking. 1 second, and then right. So let's try bringing it back now. I think it might be your phone, Rick. It seems that when it's your phone.
How's that now? Not better.
Might be better. Yeah, it seems to be better now. No, bloody hell. Oh, God.
I'm going to check out, lads. I can't really hear it.
No worries, pal.
Can you hear me?
What I'll do is, I can hear you. It's just the finger, the audio. 1 second.
It's just driving me mad. It sounds like a Dalek, and then it's vibrating, and it's echoing. I don't know what it is. I don't. Maybe it's the problem with it.
Yeah,
Do you hear me?
Say again, sorry, pal.
I'm going. My voice.
All
Thank you.
All right, pal. No worries. Thank you
Cheers,
for coming on. I really appreciate it. Oh. I think he's gone off. There we go. Right, is that better?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I don't know if it was his phone battery was low or something, but yeah, it sounds fine now. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I'll add him back in a second and see if it's better. But anyway, obviously, thank you for coming on, Rick, if you can hear this. But anyway, so where were we? So obviously, we were talking about the predicted 11, Harry Maguire and stuff. So obviously, yes, with you and Harry Maguire, do you think that his time is up at Manchester United?
Yeah, I agree with Rick. I think his time's up. He does make mistakes. He is a very good player. He's one of the better players in the box to win headers and clearances, but he does make mistakes. He's not as bad as people make out. Yeah, it's just I agree with Rick. Yeah, I think his time's up, but he's nowhere near as bad as fans or players make out that he is. You know, when he gets his name chanted and whatever, he's a good solid defender, but obviously he does make mistakes, but he's not as bad as people say he is.
Yeah,
but obviously, as you said, obviously we got Lindelof, Varane, Martinez, Shaw. It's possible left centre back. So if we can get 20, 30 mil maybe for him and invest in a different area, then yeah, why not?
Yeah, I agree. And obviously, we were looking at getting Kim Min-jae in the summer as well. So obviously, that'll be a massive upgrade. And it seems that either one of Lindelof or Maguire are going to leave the club. So anyway, we'll carry on with the predicted 11 anyway. So we've kind of said that, I've said that my predicted 11 for the midfield will be Casemiro, Eriksen and Bruno. Would you change that and maybe add Sabitzer or Fred for a bit more mobility and a bit more like fight and face, or do you think that having a more creative side in the midfield would be better?
I keep them maybe instead of Eriksen have Sabitzer. I probably keep Fred to bring on during the game. Obviously, if McTominay's fit, have him to bring on. But yeah, I probably go like Casemiro, Bruno, and then either Eriksen or Sabitzer.
Okay, yeah, that's fine, pal. Obviously, that's just your opinion. So we'll go with the front three. Now, obviously, this is kind of where I wanted Rick to be, because I would have said that we need United from about 3 years ago when we had Daniel James, Martial and Rashford, because that was Rick's favourite front three. But I do think that Martial should return in this game. I feel like that when he came here against West Ham, he did seem like he had a lot of energy. He did actually try and get a few chances. He had that chance with the corner where obviously he headed it wide. He had that chance where he was one-on-one with Fabianski, but he was just surrounded by defenders and couldn't go across the keeper. So I do think that Martial could come back into this, and I would like to see him return. So for me, I do think the front three should consist of Rashford, Martial and Antony. But what do you think? Do you think Garnacho should start? Do you think that Sancho should start? What are your thoughts?
I was going to go with that as well, yeah. Martial, Antony and Rashford. Obviously, if Garnacho's fit, bring Garnacho on at some point for Rashford. Obviously, obviously try and save Rashford for the games. Obviously, he's the main goal scorer, but obviously we don't always rely on him. But obviously, I go Rashford, Martial, Anthony, but then obviously bring the likes of Garnacho and Sancho on others midfield role for Bruno, or probably for Anthony or Rashford, as Ten Hag sometimes seems to do. But yeah, I go for the same starting up front three as you.
Yeah, I mean, I made a little video on Anthony yesterday on my TikTok. So if any of you are on TikTok, go give that video a watch. It's only a minute long video, but I'm pretty much describing that for me with Anthony is kind of like a player that's a diamond in the rough, where I feel like that he's got a lot of qualities that he actually doesn't need to work on. And for me, I feel like with the rocket of his left foot, he actually gets a lot of criticism in the Manchester United fan base. But for me, he's our only left-footed attacker. And I think he brings a lot of balance to the front three, being that left-footed. So for me, I feel like that having Anthony and Rashford, they're pretty much guaranteed starters. It just depends who you want to play through the middle, or whether you want to play Rashford through the middle, maybe bring on Garnacho or Sancho for the left-hand side. But for me, I personally feel like it's one of them. But anyway, so with the actual game itself, we'll go to score predictions now. So everyone in the comments right now, put in your score predictions in the comments and we'll put them up on the screen and we'll see how it goes. But for me, I'm honestly going to say a 2-0 victory for Manchester United is on the cards. I feel like we'll score in the first half and I feel like we'll score in the second half. But because recently it seems that we've either gone out all guns blazing in the first half and we tire in the second half, or vice versa, where we start off slow in the first half and then we go for it in the second half. We can't seem to actually control the game for the full 90 minutes. So I do feel like this is a type of game where Man United actually do control the game, and I'm looking forward to it. But what would you say for your score predictions, Nick?
I'd say 3-1. Obviously, it's at home, so we've got the advantage. I reckon we will concede, but I reckon it should be a good goal game, I reckon.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm really looking forward to this game. I mean, United have got to treat this like a cup final because, like I've said, if we don't win this game, then United will lose out on top four because we know Liverpool are coming for that fourth spot. We know Newcastle are quite comfortable with their amazing goal difference. I mean, I think they've got, is it 20 or 19 different more goals than Manchester United this season? So, or conceded, like, obviously the goal difference is just 19 more than what United is. But yeah, I do feel like that this is going to be a tough game. I mean, Elaine Caulfield has said that it's going to be 2-1 to Manchester United, I presume. So hopefully that's the case. I mean, it will be a very tight game. But I am really looking forward to it. So obviously, just quickly brush over Wolves as well. Is that there's a player that I mentioned before, and this goes under his Wolves' strengths. And obviously, we mentioned Ruben Neves about how good he is with his set piece delivery, about his playmaking ability. He's a very quality player. He might not be the fastest, but kind of like Eriksen, he can make that killer pass that could cut open a defense like a hot knife cutting butter. Like that's what Ruben Neves is very good at.
Yeah.
So, but two players that I want to just talk about as well is Kuna, who's a player that Wolves have signed this season. And I think he's on loan from Atletico Madrid, or they actually signed him on a permanent. I'm not too sure how the deal went about. But he seems that he's come into Wolves and actually restored their attacking threat. I mean, Adama Traore, who's a very threatening player, who isn't on my list, but I do think that Adama Traore's finishing ability is very poor, but we know how fast he is, we know how strong he is, and if you bring on Adama Traore with 20 minutes to go and it's only 1-0 to Manchester United, I would be very concerned because of how threatening Adama Traore actually is. And then the other player that I wanted to talk about is actually their goalkeeper, Sarr, because I feel like that last season he was probably one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League. He was very underrated, and he's very good at penalty saves. He's very good at coming off his line for crosses. His distribution is a bit poor, but I do think Sarr is a very good goalkeeper and does have very good games at times and has saved Wolves a lot of points this season. But how do you think we stop a player like Sarr? Because obviously the goalkeeper is very attacking. Well, not very attacking, but he comes off his line a lot. So Manchester United in this game, I feel like we shouldn't be. What's the word? We should be making like pinging long balls. We should be playing a high ball almost, where he should be keeping it ground, doing link up play, and then try and punish Wolves through that, and try and cast them out with that type of passing, and not just hitting long balls and trying to just completely bypass the midfield and then just go straight to the attackers, because I feel like that's not what was working for Manchester United. It worked against Spurs, but Spurs are crap. I mean, Wolves you can a crapper, but with a goalkeeper like Sarr, he's going to collect them crosses, he's going to collect them long balls, and that's how I think Manchester United might struggle. So I think we need to keep this game to the ground. What do you think about that?
Yeah, keep it to the ground. Obviously, try and like feed long balls through, like either Bruno or Casemiro trying to get through to Rashford to get through to Martial, or try and get them one-on-one with the keeper. Like, I know it's a tapping goal, but a goal's a goal, a win's a win. But yeah, just trying to get them like one-on-one, try and get around Sarr or Rashford one-on-one. You know what you can do. You know you can play back, dribble and cut through, get to Martial, or just try and go for a shot yourself.
Yeah,
just trying to feed the ball through to the right players at the right time, or just just trying to time it right.
And I feel like with Manchester United as well is that they're actually going to be Wolves' weakness, because I think there's been too many times this season, or especially in the last few games, where Manchester United where a player's taken a shot from about 30, 40 yards out to try and put the goalkeeper under a bit of pressure, instead of making that final pass and making a much more threatening goal opportunity. And I feel like United have been at fault for that, because everyone seems to be kind of wanting to be the hero and scoring absolute screamers all of a sudden. And it kind of reminds me how we played with Ralph Rangnick, which is very frustrating because that football wasn't the best. But another weakness for Wolves is I honestly think their fullback called Semedo. Now, they've recently bought him. I think it was 2 seasons ago they bought him now from Barcelona, and he always seems to get booked. And here's a stat for you. In the last 5 games that Manchester United have played against Wolves, Semedo has been booked 4 times. So I feel like that who will be marking? So he's a right back, so that means he'll be marking Marcus Rashford or Sancho or Garnacho. So I feel like that we need. I feel like you leave Sancho out this game. Maybe bring him on as a substitution if needed. But I feel like you either start with Garnacho or you start with Rashford, and wing that will run at him and try and get an early booking and actually try to get him sent off, maybe, because we've seen firsthand that when one of our players get booked within the first 10, 15 minutes, it completely takes it out of him, and the opposition always seems to target that player because they know that they can't fully commit on challenges. So I do feel like they would be Wolves' weakness, and who knows, can Manchester United beat the pack is how I'm going to label it. Might be a bit cringy, but you know, it's one of them, because Wolves are a very dangerous team in my opinion, and at the end of the day, it's all about is Manchester United getting the win. But Huddersfield Town Fan TV, how you doing, pal? Semedo was in for a long afternoon, and I hope he is, because, and that's why I'm saying that with Manchester United, we need to be playing wingers that actually run at the defence. We can't be playing Sancho, who takes too long on the ball, doesn't actually challenge the defenders, and just always either loses the ball either whilst dribbling or getting his poor and slow passing balls intercepted. Now, I still want Sancho to succeed at Manchester United, but he's making it very hard to give him back in at the moment. And Garnacho, for me, deserves to come straight back into the team.
Yeah.
Because he's only recently been injured, but he's also just recently received a new contract and new teeth. So he might be wanting to, you know, show the United crowd, especially being at Old Trafford, that he's worth this new contract, and he might be ready and raring to go, because I think he would be a bit pissed off that he didn't play against West Ham, because he probably think he could have made a difference, because with Garnacho, he's a very enthusiastic, very hungry winger, and I feel like that even though United are giving him this new contract, a lot of European teams are reported to still be very interested in him and still taking him under their wing. So I feel like we've got to protect Garnacho and give him game time when it's needed, and I feel like this is a perfect game for Garnacho to be a part of.
Yeah.
So anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Nick, obviously, don't end when I end the broadcast, don't leave normally. I just want to talk to you for a second afterwards. But anyway, guys, thank you for everyone for watching. Thank you for everyone who's made the comments. You've all been brilliant as always. Tune in tomorrow for our Matt Ten Hag press conference reaction and see what Ten Hag talks about. Will Varane, will McTominay be back from injury? Will any of our players currently be injured? Will he talk about partnerships or the midfield? I'm looking forward to this press conference reaction. So everyone, stay tuned. If you're new, subscribe to the channel and make sure you leave a like on this video and share it on Facebook, on all social medias if you can. It's really appreciated. So anyway, guys, I really appreciate everyone that's tuned in tonight. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all very, very soon.